Tell me, ladies and gentlemen, does that sound like a Star Spangled Banner to you? Nah, it's our jingle. And could you imagine people booing us? Well, I heard 21,000 odd people do that. Well, it wasn't 21,000. 21,273 people stuffed themselves into the Bell Center on Saturday. And if you were watching even on Wednesday night, fans were booing Austin Matthews. Now, if you're a hockey fan, you know that Austin Matthews is a Toronto Maple Leaf, born and raised in Arizona, and is the captain of Team USA. And fans in Montreal, the fans that don't represent 40 million Canadians, but stood there and booed the crap out of Austin Matthews, including my son, who can't stand the player. And of course, it was taken offensively. What was not talked about was that the gentleman standing next to him, Mike Richter, well-decorated and respected hockey player, won the Stanley Cup with the New York Rangers, got an applause. So today, Americans' noses bent out of joint because of a bunch of passionate hockey fans decided to express their discontent with a certain president. But let's take it personally, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rant Network. I'm David Solomon. He is Stuart Brisgell. I did this on purpose because yesterday Stuart and I had this wonderful conversation about how crazy we can be about a national anthem. This unedited, unfiltered, uncensored conversation is going to be so unapologetic. We might see sparks flying. So have a good time. Enjoy this one, folks, because honesty, definitely honesty, and opinions are going to pop out in this one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rant Network. So look, while Stuart will tell you that Canadians are such nice people, let me remind everybody that, sure, that the reputation of Canadians as being nice, apologetic, but as hopefully the future Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Poilievre, said on Saturday, do not confuse nice with weak. Stuart, you seem to feel differently this morning. So, please.
Well, let's start out with the only successful military action Canada's had in its entire existence was pre-Canada, the War of 1812, where the United States actually came in, which was the British, into United States into Canada. And lo and behold, they were defeated. And just so that people understand, the U.S. national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, was inspired specifically of the War of 1812, but more specifically the bombardment of Fort McHenry in Baltimore. But that was a very iconic year, probably the only year that you ever heard Canada or North American come up as a leader in military action. In fact, Canada has been a follower and been an under-provider on the world stage in its entire history. Though it did enter World War II in advance to the United States, it unfortunately doesn't have the capacity, fortitude, or ability to be a superpower in the world. Yet it tries to hold its head as one. Where I found disdain, where you had 21,000 people in the former Gillette Center, now the Bell Center, booing at a national anthem, is the most disgraceful thing any country can do to any other visiting group of athletes. And what I find even more ironic, and David, you touched upon it, is the asinine structure of the national teams, whereby this guy is my father, third generation, born in Canada, but really is an American, wasn't chosen for the U.S. team, but Canada needed a player because they just sucked and had to take an American player to bring them on. But that didn't help. The funny thing about this is that this whole National Hockey League, which is now international, is a farce. And it is not as genuine as we would all like to hope it would be, where it's Canada versus the U.S. Because the amount of players that are truly Canadian, that truly educated in Canada, truly grew up in Canada, truly born in Canada, is actually a minor percentage of the team. No different than in the United States. No different in Finland. No different in any of these international teams. It is actually a joke. It's how you take one country to go against another country by title. Nonetheless, the classlessness, while the Prime Minister of Canada, who though is duly elected and stands to be the head of the party until March, stood there and laughed. You know, Donald Trump is probably the most controversial leader in history. And you know what? His tactics, his antics are not necessarily supported by 330 million people. Yes, that's over 10 times the amount of people live in Canada, because we have about 20,000 undocumented workers here. So, you know, we're probably about 350, almost 400 million today. But let's be honest, the disgracefulness, the classlessness that Canadians like to assert that the Americans have are really just dumbass Democrats portraying and projecting this innocent personality, which doesn't exist. If there was any common sense at this game, they would never have booed. They would have stopped the anthem, would have stopped the game, because that was very much unsportsmanlike in a game that is a national heritage in Canada. Hockey is Canada's Hall of Fame, that it hasn't seen a podium since, I believe, 1993. Now, is it because Canada has lost its famous Stanley Cup for possibly an eternity? Or is it because Canada's lost its way in the woke and in the broke and in the retarded? And yes, David, I'm using that R word because it's graceful at all levels. It doesn't matter what Trump said, because even his closest people know that what he is saying was just to piss Trudeau off, to call him, belittle him, because the little child who's trying to play world leader supports terrorism, supports terrorists, supports terrorist countries, doesn't stand up for freedom, doesn't care about the border. In fact, if it wasn't for Donald Trump and his illustrious campaign against Trudeau, you would not have put 10,000 troops on the U.S. border to actually start protecting lives, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions of lives dying of fentanyl, that the Canadian government is in denial. And as a massive contributor, not the most contributor, but a contributor nonetheless, for that person that dies because the pill was one of, let's say, 3 out of 10 that came in from the north versus the south, does that change the life that's lost because of the gross incompetence of a country being an ostrich or acting like a moron? David, I'm not taking up this whole rant because I know you're salivating in the corner while you try and pull up some facts on your phone. But David, can you tell me you are not embarrassed to see what happened at the Bell Stadium? Really? You're going to tell me you're proud to be Canadian? You're proud to have gone to Ottawa to stand up with fellow conservatives, standing up and now trying to find a scapegoat, the reason why conservatives may lose? Conservatives may lose in Canada because conservatives don't have a platform.
Okay, here we go. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Stuart, I let Stuart go for 6 minutes, and let me tell you something about Stuart. My friend, my dearest friend, who grew up in Montreal, believes that it's still 1996 whenever he left Canada. And he still thinks that he knows everything. And while he controls the sound and he'll pretend to be funny on a lot of things, Stuart displays American ignorance. Because what he just did is perfect. He decided that hockey fans who booed the US national anthem represents 40 million Canadians. So let me give you a parallel. If you live in the city of Philadelphia, because Stuart is so well versed in sports, let me see, Stuart. What is Philadelphia's fan base known for, Stuart?
Being popped.
Well, Stuart is going to look it up because he has no clue. This is the fan base that was well known to be pelting, snowballs, ice balls at football players in the stadium. There's also well known to be throwing D-sized batteries at the field, also booing Santa, whatever. Is this representing the United States?
Throwing rats on a
Is this a typical American? So, well, Stuart wants to try to once again, use bluster and absolute incredible amount of ignorance. It's good. Please continue to do so, because this is how Canadians and the rest of the world view Americans: ignorant. And the ignorance is amazing, because once again, if it wasn't for Donald Trump, Trudeau would be out of power. That's false, beyond false, because you don't even follow Canadian politics. Americans wouldn't even know where Canada is on the map. It's just amazing to me to just show the arrogance of Americans. Now, let me answer the question. Was I proud? No. But I'm also not proud of my Canadian anthem, my friend. I'm not proud of them right now. I was not proud of the United States for 4 years. I don't think it's right to boo anybody's anthem. I think it's wrong to boo everybody's anthem. In fact, maybe you weren't paying attention, which wouldn't be the first time you've heard that. You were not paying attention to the announcer in the arena, who actually asked people not to boo any anthems. Now, this wasn't exclusive to just the American national anthem, but at 1 o'clock earlier that day, Finland and Sweden played each other. Now, once again, Finland and Sweden hate each other almost as much as the Canada-US rivalry. There's a centuries-old hatred between these two countries. And the same arena announcer begged Finnish and Swedish fans not to boo the other's anthem. This is not abnormal, because if you go to stadiums around the world, and believe you me, I follow sports, this isn't the first time a national anthem is booed and people are asked not to boo it. Irrelevant. The irrelevance here is this. This is what sport is all about. Okay? Now, to sit there, view Justin Trudeau smiling and thinking that this is what Canada represents, this is beyond wrong. Canadians as a whole have said all along, America has been our friend. The United States is our friend. The United States and Canada had to fight together. Now, Stuart likes to degrade Canada, but let me ask you, Stuart, while the United States sat out in World War I until 1917, Canada had no choice, as being part of the British Kingdom at the time, to join World War I. And there were tremendous deaths, Vimy Ridge, to name one, and many others, in which Canada lost significant lives, while the US took what position? Isolationism. Refused to join the war in 1917. Oh, but Canada's done nothing on the battlefield. Let me remind you about World War II, in which Canada voluntarily joined the British in 1939 after Poland was invaded by the Germans. And by the way, where was the United States? On the sidelines until December 7th, 1941, when it was attacked by Japan. Why? Isolationism. And Canada stood side by side in Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan. And now, while Canada does not want to be a military power, no one can compare to the United States except for China and Russia. Canada could do its part. Has it done its part? Hold on. Has it done its part lately? The answer is no. And that is because of woke politics. And woke politics is this. If you do this, go to Britain, go to France, go to all these other countries, they've taken the same stance. To use a sports expression, they've taken a knee. And they've let the United States go out and be the world's policeman. Now, here's what you don't know. Our future Prime Minister, God willing, Pierre Poilievre, announced that he will be re-increasing the Canadian budget for a few reasons. Number one, to stop being dependent on the United States for all military. Two, to be part of NATO in fairness. And three, to protect our own borders. And so right now, Canada has lost 9 years of Trudeau. We've become crap. And to sit here today and to say, oh, well, you guys are, you guys are a bunch of wussies, just like you just described in your monologue. Stuart, it is a reflection on the lack of understanding of how Canada works. Now, to sit here and to tell me that we're blaming Trump for the loss, actually, Trump is impacting our election. Stuart, that's called election interference. Remember how you didn't like when Putin made remarks. Just remember how you didn't like how other governments made remarks, and yet your own president is doing it. And that's okay, because if Trump does it, it's okay. Stuart, all I'm saying is, if you want to have world order, you need allies.
All right. Now, now you rattle rattle on, and because Canada is such an iconic Canadian group of athletes, they have to put spy drones up in the 2024, got barred in financing because their soccer team had to spy on another team. FIFA below their routine, bans against different players, disgraced Olympians. You're right. Canada is no shiny penny. I agree. Many Canadians are shocked and embarrassed over these scandals because they don't want to admit that they actually happened. But Canada is just as stained as the United States. However, Stephen Harper didn't increase the budgets for any of the UN funds.
Why? Because you're such a genius.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why. What was going on during Harper's time that he couldn't raise the military budget? Could you please explain it to me? Because reading Wikipedia doesn't do anything
for Afghanistan mission in 26, the Ontario 20s, the Quebec National Motion.
Stuart,
what do you want to know about him?
Stuart,
the parliamentary contempt withdrawal from Kyoto Protocol.
Stuart, I bless you. I bless you, but I too can read Wikipedia, and I too can ramble off a whole bunch of things.
I'm just looking,
and I can point the finger
to look up and see what he's done or what he has not done.
You could continue your rant, but I can also point out to you, listen, Stuart, if you want to tell me that America's great, fine. I'm going to tell you something. Your own government is right now exposing the fallacies of the past, okay? Yep. Your own government is talking about how, Chelsea Clinton's wedding was paid for by the U.S. government.
Yep.
You've got all kinds of bad things that are happening.
I agree.
I am not going to sit here today and tell you everything that every previous prime minister has done here was right. Wrong. But in 2008, when Prime Minister Harper was trying to save a country from bankruptcy, okay, in one of the worst possible recessions ever, okay, what did he do? He had to take austerity measures. But he did commit in his final run for government to reinstate military budgets. But Stuart, it doesn't matter to you because you just want to degrade Canada.
No, not at all, David. Not at all. I want to illustrate how dumb the Liberals have been, not once, not twice, but the entire history.
You started this rant by saying that the Canadians...
conservatives have a single chance.
Stuart, you just started this rant by saying that Canadians are bad people because we boo the American national.
No, you see, that's what you wanted to hear. No,
I said
the Canadians at that arena demonstrated on how poor sportsmanlike they could actually be to a visiting foreign country in a farcical Canada versus U.S. game.
Farcical.
Yes,
Stuart, my friend. I want to explain to you. Do me a favor. I'm going to quote somebody who I really respect. Whatever. Stay in your lane with what you know, and don't pretend you know everything. What farcical? Let's tell me. Name me one Canadian player. Stop. Name me one Canadian player who played on Team Canada, who wasn't born in Canada. And name me one American.
The guy from Arizona, the guy that filled
in from Arizona, Stuart, is playing on Team USA. You see, you don't
No. Who was the guy that did? Forget his name. Hamilton.
Stuart, I love you, man, but you still don't know what you're talking about. Right now, the Canadian players in the National Hockey League do not represent the majority of players, Canadian-born players. Yes, we know. Austin Matthews was born in Arizona, plays for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yippee-ki-yay.
Okay.
Look at basketball. Look at basketball. And you tell me, can you tell me the number one?
That's what I'm telling you, that these countries against countries is becoming a farce.
It's not a farcical. You don't understand. And
I don't understand.
I'm sorry. You do not understand what this tournament is all about. You sit there as a genius.
This tournament, it's not just about this tournament. It's about all of these tournaments and how they've become. My great-great-great-grandmother was born in Jamaica. that makes me for the Jamaican bobsled team. It's just ridiculous at this point.
Stuart, I love you, man.
It goes back
once
to what
again,
the rant was about.
ladies and gentlemen, Stuart Brisgell represents, I hate to say it, if this is the American education system, God bless us. So Stuart, let's finish this up because we're at 20 minutes and you've already put your foot in your mouth. So please finish this rant, my friend, because I can't wait to see the comments from the people. Go ahead. How would you like to rant? How would you like to end this rant, my friend?
You know, David, it's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
They started off thinking that they can be arrogant in the Bell Center. They ended up being a bunch of losers. And you know what? On Thursday in Massachusetts, I'm going to laugh. And, you know, I hope that the American audience that's in Massachusetts, who are some of the most wildly intense sports fans, don't go to the level that your Canadian compatriots did. And I pray that they don't, because that would be wrong. And maybe on Friday, we get to discuss how many boos or how many applause actually occurred while the national anthem.
As I end this rant, ladies and gentlemen, let me just show you how Stuart is being infantile and ignorant. Because some of the most racist fans in American history are from? You can guess, folks. Boston, Massachusetts. With that, folks, let's end this rant because Stuart just played the music. He doesn't want to let me finish. On that note, have yourself a great day. We'll see you Wednesday.